Hi, this is John Hilbrands, owner of Hilbrands Carpet Care. Today I'm going to do a little demonstration of the Cool Glide, which is this tool here. And I've had it for about 5 years, basically for carpet repairs. And let's talk a little bit about the history of carpet repairs. My uncle is a retired carpet layer, and I've actually worked with him and come out with him to do some carpet repairs for him. So, and he was kind of surprised at the equipment that he has, and he talked about how he used to stitch it. But you can imagine stitching, whenever you bend edges, you lose fiber, and all that contortion is, and then the stitches themselves are going to pull fiber down. It's not going to be a very good look, but it's going to be pretty permanent. So your biggest issue is you want it permanent. So a normal seam is done by putting your two parts of carpet together, and then you pull the long seaming iron along. But when you're doing a patch, where you're just making a hole, you have to do it without that long seaming iron. So there's two methods that are out before the Cool Glide, and that would use a regular household iron. And what you do is you get a really wet towel. So you have your new patch here, you have your seaming tape underneath, and you set your iron on top of it. And you wait. And then you try and guess the point where it's going to be stuck, but before the point where you scorch your carpet on the top. And sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't, meaning it's still loose. If it's not quite stuck, you kind of feel it, put the iron down, it's not quite ready, feel it, put the iron down. And it's kind of imperfect, but it eventually ends up working. Now this is seaming tape. What most carpet repairmen do, however, something a little more sturdy and exact, is you take a glue gun. And this is a special glue gun. Notice it says Pam. It's kind of dirty. It's got a lot of glue on it, but they get extra hot, so you get a little more working time. So what you do is you get your piece in there and you layer glue on it. You kind of get the edges glued down first. You push them down, let the glue seep over, and then you kind of scrape it off with a razor blade, and I usually have lots of them. And then when I have it, basically the centerpiece is all ready to put in now, and all the edges are glued right up to the edge, and then I layer some more glue in there, and I might even do it as a flap where I just do half of it, so I get the top half done, and then I add some more in the bottom, and then slowly work it down. And the idea is to get it so it'll stick without getting glue seep all around the edge. So you can see the problem. We're lifting it, we're putting it down, we're maneuvering it, and sometimes you'll get a little bit of fiber that will go into the glue line. Sometimes you'll get glue seep. So you got those issues. So not perfect, iron not perfect because it doesn't really stick. So now we have the Cool Glide. The Cool Glide works by heating a special tape, and that's this stuff over here, and it has a foil backing on it. So that foil backing, it works the same as a stove does, or an electric stove, where it has that induction heating. So basically we're heating through the carpet to this metal. So it doesn't really heat the carpet itself, it's heating the seaming tape just enough to melt the glue. And you also notice this glue, it's very thin. It's almost like a layer of latex, versus this is very thick and ribbed. But the reason why this is ribbed is you're pulling a seaming iron that's kind of melting it and pulling it away, whereas this, nothing is pulled against it. So it can handle a little bit less, but there is a problem in that it's not as strong. And because of that, you always have to use a seam sealer. A seam sealer is something you just apply to the edge as you're doing the repair. Now that you know all of those things, let's get started. So what I first will do, and I made a little X, so I'm not going to cheat, I'm not going to cut this out and then put it back in. I'm going to cut this X out, a little patch, so I'm going to cut that out. And to cut it, now Basically what you want to do is you want to create a ribbon or a cornrow, and you just want to break through it so that you're cutting not on the fiber. So what I'll do is I'll create a nice cornrow that's going to go in between the fibers, and then I'm going to get my knife into that cornrow and cut without cutting any top fibers. I could cheat and lift this from the back and cut it from the back, but normally this is in the middle of a room and you can't really roll it back and find it and cut it. So let's just do it from the top. Let me pause and do that. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm using a sharp line and I'm drawing my line softly. So the purpose of this is to just break, to not actually cut fiber, but to get it to gap between fibers. Once I'm happy with that, I'm holding it once with my knee and the other hand's gonna go here, and then I'm gonna finally drag it. So when my hand goes down, it'll just cut it like that. All right? Okay, so once you're cut through, take the piece out and you set it aside. And I like to keep the same orientation, especially when I'm making a perfect square, because when you're going to put your piece in, I guess it's not as important when I'm doing the cool glide because I have more positioning time, but you could still get things wrong. So now that I have it out, I prefer to cut things from the back. So what I'm going to do over here is lay the carpet on a piece and use my same edge to just kind of make straight lines. Now, you're tempted to just use an existing edge, but see how it's kind of chewed up? Even one that doesn't look as chewed up will still sometimes have loose frays. And this is getting to be a little bit of an older piece, so it's a little softer than it could be. But that kind of simulates what's in the house anyway. Okay, so once we've cut the two side edges perfectly, now we're going to line up our piece, our line, and see how I have it flipped over to match? If we were doing it this way, they would be mirror images. They wouldn't be exact copies. So we want them to be an exact copy. And having it cut too big is almost as big a problem as too small, because when you go to put it in, the edge will kind of flip up and you'll try and push it in and then it won't stick. So you do want it exact, but if you do cut it a little bit big, these carpet scissors are amazingly sharp, and sometimes you just take a little bit off an edge to make it more perfect. But let's finish this cut. Okay, so let's take a look and see how that fits. Now I had this on top like this, so this will flip. We have it oriented right. So let's see how it fits. And that's going to fit really nicely in there. It'll fit really nicely in there once you get it all flattened in. So your gluing issue is going to be a problem if you go to do other things. But now what we're going to do is we're going to do our seam sealer. Okay, so you have your seam adhesive, and the point of the seam sealer is it's going to get into the carpet backing, and it'll prevent it from doing this fraying stuff that you sometimes see. So what will happen is carpet continues to fluff at the edge, and some of this glue isn't thick enough to soak into the backing of the carpet. So you want it to go down your line, and you also want enough so that the other piece, when it goes down, will also get a little bit of seam sealer. So if I was going to try and put it on the piece up in the air, when I go to put it down, as I move it into position, it's going to smear on the surface. So you pretty much only want to do it on the bottom piece. And that's just so that you can have more positioning time with the top to get it down without getting glue on everything. Okay? Okay, so now we added our seam sealer and we put it down, And now what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure that we've lifted all of our fibers. The way a seam roller works, it kind of pulls as well as it pushes because it's kind of a wheel. So as it's pulling it up, it's going to make it a little better. Okay, so now we're happy that that looks good. Now what we're going to do is use our Cool Glide system. Okay, so there I made alignment lines on the front and the back. And what I'll do is I'll hold it down while I push the power button. And I keep it pressed with my hand while I'm holding it. So it's actually adding some weight. As soon as it's done, we put our suction device on it. This is going to pull it up and cool it. Alright, and now we're going to take it on our second alignment line, which is right here. And we're going to do the same thing. Put pressure on it. You see, and hit the power button. So my hand is actually, my muscles are going back and forth because I'm putting enough pressure on it. Now, fan again. Okay, so there it is. Let's look at the back. So the seaming tape is really stuck. Nicely stuck. I can still feel a little heat, but it's completely invisible. Generally, you rub it as well, and then you take a seam nipper or a carpet nipper, and if you see anything popping up, you might cut it a little bit, just to make it invisible. But that's generally how you do a carpet repair. That's about it. I hope this has helped you if you're a carpet repairman or a carpet cleaner that needs to add some more business to them. I think the Cool Glide is a good system. So I think hope this has helped you. Give it a thumbs up and a like. And if you're in the Temecula area, give me a call and I'd be happy to do a carpet repair for you. Thank you. Bye-bye.